Let me see. Okay. Checking my audio works correctly. Let me see. Okay. Okay, perfect. I can hear my audio. See anybody on the group? I love people. Okay. Oh, we still have about 7 minutes before I actually get started. Maybe people will join this time. We'll see. I want to see people join. I know some people watch the video after, and you know, the whole interaction about this is kind of the point of why I'm doing this. So in this show here, it's going to be a special one because I've been working on something quite a lot, and I'm ready to kind of show it off. So throw my mouse over there. You know what? The only thing I don't know how to do is do auto, like an auto kind of like rotate. I gotta figure out how to do that. Let me see. Oh man, I forgot what it's called. Miro, no, I forgot what it's called now. Oh man. Snap let's try Miro. Maybe Miro has something like that. Gives me a virtual whiteboard to go off of. Do. Whimsical. There we go. That's what it was called. I like me whimsical. Log in with Google. About stream's about to start pretty soon. Okay, I think I'm live now. Hold on. Say what's up in the chat if anybody's in there. Oh, say what's up. Now, today it's gonna be a little bit more of an educational live stream, especially in the world of product design and kind of the way I do my phases or my workflow, especially when it comes to a singular design. A little stage fright, but let's do that. So the goal or the design I was trying to get to here, if I bring it up, Now, if you guys been following me for a while, you guys know I make sort of like airsoft replica kind of stuff. The car SMG, which is not on there on the wall anymore, because I'm working on it. But the car SMG, doing the lower and upper receiver, making that work and all that. That's and hopefully I could pull a video out of it. But I want to talk about designing through a medium, and the medium being something you want to do because you're passionate about, or something you want to design because you're passionate about it. So this is that thing for me. This is something, one, it's a hobby. Two, it kind of gets my brain kind of going. And then three, it helps me communicate with you and get on your level of where you're at in your journey of education towards design. So this being a product, it gives you kind of a goal or objective, and that objective being, the end creation of something you would personally use or have, displayed or whatnot. This being my objective. The objective of this is to design my own receiver for Airsoft. One, because I'm a designer. Two, because I have the capability of doing it. And three, I want to be able to develop my own product with my own name on it. That name being 3D Solid Concepts. If I could get to my screen. And there's and spinning off of that, there's sort of sub objectives to that. So you go from objectives to sort of sub objectives. If I could put it in here. Sub objectives, and those sub objectives being kind of the wants. This is the wants list. And the reason why I start with the wants and not the needs, for me, is that it's kind of your time to kind of start imagining, start getting your juices flowing. This is your whiteboard. This is where your start. This is where I want all of this in my product. And then you're going to start listing those out. For me, my objective or my sub objectives, I'll put my main objective here, was to create my own Airsoft receiver. If I can spell Airsoft right. Oh, it is right. That was my objective there. That is my primary objective. My sub objectives for this, and which I'll list here, is the first one. I want to be able to sell my own receiver. This is something I want to do. This is probably most people's mindsets. Like, I want to sell this, and this is for me. I want to sell this, and it's a monetary kind of thing. But here's a non-monetary kind of things. I want to be able to, have my own receiver, customized. And here's some other cool things about this. I want it to be skeletonized. I see people, when I say skeletonized, I mean kind of like all these nice cuts in it, see the internals and whatnot, because I'm trying to build a very nice gearbox, which is the internal mechanism for an airsoft rifle. Skeletonized. Another thing is I want to be able to do. If you're not familiar, that's okay, but it's called AEG, which is automatic electric gun. So this is the using electrical components and a battery. Or HPA being that you use a air compression instead, in mechanical air compression to drive the BB out. And I want to be able to do both within this receiver, so I kind of designed to those parameters. Another thing is, was that I want to do it for AR-10. Well, sorry, large. Well, for me, it's called the 308. the 308 in the AR world is that it's just a larger magazine. If I could have one here. So here's a regular, I mean, here's a regular one. Here's a regular, let me zoom in. Here is a regular AEG magazine, and this basically holds 6mm caliber. But the thing about this is that here's a 308 version, and what you'll see here is that one of them is a lot larger. And in the world of AR, and this isn't real rounds, this is plastic. In the world of AR, is that these are higher caliber. So I wanted one that was a higher caliber. It's called 308, AR10. AR10 style and AR15 style. I want to be able to hold both of those. So this is my wants list, and I can continue onwards with this, but you guys kind of get the idea of what I want. One more thing, because this is I want to put an example of something I couldn't get into the design. I want to have a rear side Picatinny. And this is a Picatinny rail is basically something that's standard on most rifles itself. And then usually most of these rifles have something called a buffer tube, a tube in the back where you could put your stock on. Well, this one, and those can't collapse. So I wanted something that's collapsible to be able to put on there. That's something you could do with a Picatinny. And this is an example of a stock that has a Picatinny adapter in it. So here's where the rail goes in. Basically, this goes on the back and it pops. I can't really do it. In and out. So you could collapse the rifle to be a smaller profile. And that's something I wanted to add to the design, and you guys will see later on. I kind of it didn't quite function correctly or how I want, but the mindset was there, and I kind of got another idea for it. So this is my wants list. Skeletonized, see my internals, receiver that's customized by me, has my logo on it. I'd be able to sell it to other people. When I mean by sell it, I mean I want other people to be able to put their own stuff in it without worrying too much of what could fit and what can't fit. So there's that. So let me go to my 3D model now. And here's the base of all this. So the next part of this is the, let me go back to my, kind of jumping the gun here, but let me go back to this. Oops. So the next part of this is the needs list. And this is kind of this is the next part. This is the sub-objectives. So actually, I'm going to call these restrictions. Restrictions, the needs. And then some of those needs is like, for example, since this is an AEG, an airsoft rifle, it needs to be able to use standard magazines. Standard 6mm BB mags. So that's a need. It needs to use that. I could probably make my custom own, but I just probably don't have the technique or capability of doing that. So that becomes a restriction, a need. Another restriction is it needs either a battery or if it's HPA, so it needs either a battery or some sort of space to hold air. So it needs one of those. So it needs one of those two. Battery or space to hold air. And then another thing is that it needs to hold a standard gearbox version 2. That's one of the restrictions, is that because of my limited mechanical design, is that I need to do a gearbox, something that another engineer's already designed up and already put, and something that's been proven out in the field and already been designed and engineered for you. And I need to use it also a gearbox version 2. So this receiver needs to hold that exact gearbox, because I'm not going to design the propulsion of it. I'm just designing the trim around it, the housing around it. So that becomes like your restrictions and your needs. And you could go on with this kind of list, but this is kind of the start. This is the whiteboard area. I'm going to add one more thing to this. Oops. Let me tidy this up real quick. There you go. So the next thing is concepts. So funny enough, you need your own concepts to start with. So this is the whiteboard area, the whiteboard phase of the product design. This is something, you start on a whiteboard and kind of just start drawing up ideas, techniques, things you could employ, the concepts, for example, the type of sizing or type of mounting. For example, pinholes, screws you want to use possibly. The gearbox is something like that as well. Types of gearboxes. And then, kind of like explore what is standard out there. Kind of like what's standard. Types of standards. Now, one thing I hear out there a lot, and to be honest, I didn't really understand why they kept on saying this, but what I mean by types of standards, for example, you go to American standards using 1/4" 20 screws, or something if you use in house, use an M3 screw, etc. So that's the type of standards I'm talking about. Dimensional standards. Place I work at, we have a standard, length and width of hole bolts that go for our seats. But here, for example, I'm talking about like mil specs. I hear that a lot, and I'll be honest, I didn't really understand what that really meant. Military specifications, and then there's upper military specifications, upper and lower specifications, and etc. Right? There's gonna be all sorts of stuff. And this is something you could, this is like the research of it, the concepts, I'll put that in there as the research that goes into this. The type of research you could go in and kind of like start Googling keywords, mil spec, upper, lower, specs. You want to be safe. You want to do AG or Airsoft. If you want to go into gun stuff, that's on you. But I'm talking about Airsoft stuff. But don't forget, this is a medium. It's not. It could be anything. It could be, you want to design something for your car. You want to design something for your kitchen. You want to, etc. This is just a medium. This is a technique. So you want to dive in, go and do some research, find keywords, or, find keywords or groups. Now, this is something I've learned, trying to, be social on the internet, is that, there's already Facebook groups, examples, that already dive into like the technical of lowers and uppers, and what's best, what's good, what's out there, and that's kind of where I started all this, is from those groups. And you get so much information, especially on what's good and what's bad. That's another thing that's really key, is like what's good and what's bad, and it'll save you a lot of time. Actually, I spoke to a guy named the Real Deal Airsoft, and for the car SMG, I kept on buying something called the APS Gearbox version 2. The good and bad out there. You know, I kept on buying the Gearbox version 2, and I thought, and it was shooting like a very, very low velocity. You know, BBs basically rolled out of the barrel and didn't really go far. And, you know, it felt like little pebbles hitting you. And it just wasn't a good gearbox. But I didn't really know this until I talked to somebody called the Real Deal Airsoft. And he explained to me that, you know, first it was just complete crap. I should throw it to the trash. And then he tried to sell me on his stuff. And I ended up buying his stuff. But there was good reason, because he proved out through videos and you know, his own build videos on YouTube. Maybe I'll put a link to his stuff, and, you know, shout out to him. Is that he kind of helped teach me what's good out there, and kind of taught me the difference between like a regular AEG and then, you know, the types of AEGs out there. Here, and I'll put it in my wants list, because this became a want later on. And it didn't really involve the design too much, but that's not what I want. It didn't involve design too much, but it's something I really wanted to do, and it became a passion for me to kind of achieve. And that's called something called DSG, dual sector gear. This is something in the gearbox, and all it does, it gives you a higher rate of fire. And for me, it's like, oh my gosh, the car SMG from Titanfall, you know, goes brrrr, and I want that. So it just became motivation for me to kind of get there. So it was a driving factor for it. And that's something, you know, I can introduce in my, you know, to people to kind of get their eyes kind of like brighten up and like, oh man, that's so cool. And, you know, they'll want to be involved. And that cool factor, or the dream of that cool factor, is what really captures people to buy stuff. Little advice there. So the good and bad. So you go from the concepts, and you know, you draw up, you've done your research, you have your objectives, you have your restrictions. What do you do next? What is the next step after the whiteboard? Now, my official title of this is not called whiteboard. I call it the conceptual phase. This is what I do to all my actual designs at work. I called it the conceptual phase. And this in itself has its own little process, which I just showed you. The objective, set your objective, sub-objectives, restrictions, and then concepts. So there's that. Moving onward, and you guys can even see it, you know, you guys can see it here, conceptual phase, design phase, and campaign phase. So going from the whiteboard conceptual phase, what's the next step? Well, it's going to be the design phase. And what the design phase is, sorry, there's one more thing I want to add on to restrictions. And you want to be, you know, legal, legal, or abide by rules. Just to be safe out there, you know, field rules, you couldn't go so much of a velocity before you start hurting people. Make sure to abide those. Be safe, okay? Be safe. And don't design anything you wouldn't want to use yourself, because you don't want to be hurting anybody. They're just not cool. Anyways, back to, you want to go to the design phase. Now, what is the design phase about? What is in the design phase? And this is kind of where I go into the actual 3D model. And let me show you. Let me open up the SolidWorks. Here we go. So the design phase of this, and this is something I kind of do to most of my drawings, is that I kind of set, I call it, I don't have a specific name for it. I just call it kind of like milestones. And those milestones, I usually list them out on a piece of paper, but those milestones are like the grip cutout, the trigger guard cutout, the lower, geometry, what kind of design I want here, the upper rail, how I kind of want that, and then this is a typical thing I do most of my models, especially if it's a symmetrical part, is that I design all of the symmetrical geometry first. Everything that's going to be left to right. And then everything that's asymmetrical below that. Not everything. There'll be some things you needed to do that symmetrical anyways on both sides, and I'll show you here. I'm going to scroll up on my wheel here. I'm going to show you the first step in my design is kind of the base sketch, and this kind of decided everything for me. Actually, there's another piece of sketch, but like right here is like the dimensions for the pick rail, the height of the center bore, the height of the entire thing, and this is where the military specifications kind of came in. This is millimeters, by the way, and they some of these dimensions are very key. And provide the start of everything. So these are what I want to call the base. So let me add that to the whimsical. Right here is set milestone design features. Trigger guard cutouts, lower and upper receiver design, pocket cutouts, mag release design, stuff like that. The milestones, like where do you want to be at? So that's a good tip. Typically I write them down and then I compartmentalize it to make it seem not like such a huge monster of a design, something that's more manageable in bits and pieces. And even in those, in every single one of those, I kind of dive deeply in the research of all of them and find out what's something that's already done, or what's something what's the standards out there. Go by standards first, and then you start adding your own creativity after that. Let me go back, write that. It's actually pretty good. Base sketch. The driving sketch for all. And then another thing is designed by standard specs, then dive into creativity. So I'll show you an example of that in the design, what I mean by dive into creativity. So here I started with the base sketch, and one of the first things and this is like one thing that I kind of stressed about is the grip. Do I have one around me? The damn grip, because I can never get that thing right. And it kind of drove the entire design, which is funny to me. Like, this is one of the most important features of, actually, I mean, one of the most important for me to kind of figure out and get right. It actually became my origin point in all this. It was that important. And here's the grip cutout, getting this geometry just right so you could fit onto that grip, because that's probably one of the most complex portions of that design. So I made it very apparent to tackle this first, so I could get the rest right. And I used these two planes as my driving planes for the entire rest of the design. And I'll give you an example of that. Like here's part of that design here. This cutout is driven by this origin point, which is where the grip cutout goes. And then even the entire rest of the lower design, all these cutouts, all that cutouts done, is driven by that origin. You see that? Origin dimensioned, origin dimensioned. And you know, it makes it easier to kind of like with these folders kind of go around and you know, compartmentalize your geometry so you go back to it more easily instead of like hunting and picking for it. So here's the top pick rail. That's something very important as well, is that pick rail. I mean, that's how you mount your optics and whatnot, and that's all standard. All this stuff is standard. Where my creativity came in is kind of like areas where it doesn't matter as much, like the mag wheel. Up here in this area is the important side of it, but going down here, not so important. So let me scroll down a little bit more. So up to this point, it's mostly all standard, just kind of little cuts and bits that I added there. They're not really huge influential. All of this trigger guard dimensions are pretty much standard. Something, you know, I took a piece and just kind of with calipers, just measured. And here's one of those things. Now this is that rear Picatinny. This is one of those sub-objective wants that I couldn't quite get to work properly. And here's the reason. And this is, you know, in your product design, you know, and this helps when you have like those feature milestones, is that I want to go to this feature, and this will help you. This will help not destroy your tree. You don't want to destroy your tree. So you could, like, you know, you can suppress it easily if you don't need it. If you don't want it, you know, to suppress it, it's gone, but it's not completely gone. But going back, the reason why I couldn't do a rear Picatinny rail is that there's no way. If I want this for an AEG and an HPA, for HPA I can, because the hose line could go through the bottom. I don't want to do that. I don't think it looks cool. I want the entire rifle in one you know, solid build. I don't want to be having a tank on my backpack. So that became, so I had to take that out because there was no way to put a battery in the back. Like there's no battery compartment in this. And this is where I kind of like thought about it after a while. I was like, where do I put a battery? No, I couldn't put it in this. And then any battery buy out there, if I did try to put it in this, I would have to put it like all the way in the back. But for other people, that'll be really hard to cut wires and do their own thing. Oh, hey, you know, Jeanette said, what's up? Yeah, I need to sign in for some reason. Well, I'm going to ignore that for now. But yeah, let me see. Is there anything in the chat? As I'm talking here. Okay, going back to it. So I had to remove that because I couldn't find a battery. Even if I put the battery in front, for example, like the, let me pull it up. This is the Virtus AEG MCX by Sig Sauer. They have a training rifle, they call it. You know, they have this, ignore that, but they have this rifle, and this is where I got the buttstock from. They had this rifle, and they had this Picatinny, which I think is super cool, having that Picatinny back there. And I may make an adapter for that for the people that want to do HPA. But just for this design portion of it, I'm gonna have to remove it. Later on, I'll probably make an end cap, but I couldn't make it part of the lower. And also, it requires these cutouts, which I still may add in. I'm not sure yet. I mean, it's just a design decision, and I mean, and if I want to bring it back, because I already done the dimensions, I already took all the dimensions. If I wanted to bring it back into the design, you know, I already had that dual stock cutout right here, dual rail stock cutout. So I could always bring it back into the design and you know, try to use it again. The only thing is like this Picatinny, this Picatinny, no, oh, such a good idea. So going onwards, both of these two things are X'd out of the list for now, and later on I could probably try to put it back. Let me see. Oh man. I don't know what it is. Do. For some reason, my chat is weird. I really want to say hello. Hello, Jeanette. Ah, there you go. Okay, cool. Okay, going back to it, and I lost a couple windows. Let me try to reset myself up here again. Oh, I forgot to put this. Let me add this on because it's kind of important. But I like to start. I don't like starting with an assembly necessarily. That's probably me. One, because it limits your creativity. For me, I stick to something called a master part, and then later down the line, I take all those components I made and then save as an assembly, and it'll create every one of those parts for me. And if I ever need to change anything, I could simply go into the master part and update it. While if I do it in assemblies, I just feel like to kind of like know the parent-child relationships is a lot more difficult to manage, and that kind of just slows down your design time. And for me, this is a lot quicker. So oops. Master part design, then export to assembly. This is kind of, just the beginning stages. Now, let me go down from here. Now, this is all preliminary design stuff. Preliminary design. The next step I want to go to. Oops. I'm going to go to the design first. Ah, that's something I want to put here. Put this lower. So another thing I brought it up earlier. I just want to write it down. Design symmetrical features first, then mirror later. This is something that's going to make you quicker at design. designing. Just a point of reference is that the lower that you just saw, if I can bring it up, I guess how long that took me to design? A day. And that's after work. It's like 4 hours of work here. A little bit more than 4 hours because of the thought process of it. But for me to actually go into design, like, you know, I came in prepared before I actually drew anything. But technically I drew this like twice already, but I mean, let's ignore that part. But I drew this file here in one day. It was 4 or 5 hours, you know, after work, you know, tired and whatnot. And one thing that really helps me is this folder right here. Is that I did all the mirror and splitting at this point to get all the symmetrical features out of the way. And then after that, just because I needed it, I did the barrel. So that's something useful. And now the next point is here. I designed the mount points after the mirror. So the mount points I use the whole wizard tool. And this is only specifically for this, honestly. So let me go back here. And this is getting to like the nitty gritty. This is the deciding part. I'm not sure of a good way to put it. But this is kind of where you know, I'll put the words here of what it is actually. This is the design of mounting and pocket cuts. This is where you start adding external elements to it. The external design. This is kind of getting into the specific design. You know, a lot of your actual design work's gonna be like right here, preliminary design. This is specific design. Then the mountain pockets, the asymmetrical parts. You know, design of the asymmetrical. Let me see. Let me go back to my 3D design and I'll show you guys what I mean. So right here, you know, and I use Whole Wizard to do these. You know, these are, you know, an order of operations of tooling, kind of like manufacturability. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Before I go here, that's what I was looking for. And this is kind of after. This is you know, instead of a specific design, it's called design for manufacturability. I can't spell. Manufacturing, let's call it that. Design for manufacturing, DFM, I think some people call it. This is designing to manufacturing processes. The reason why I do this after kind of that huge step in symmetrical features, you could do it in preliminary design, but this is where I mean the pocket cuts, the drill holes, the asymmetrical, how are you going to kind of mount it on a CNC, or how you can put it on a lathe and whatnot. This is kind of that. This is where you think about those processes after you design a bit. You know, I don't want to do it in the first preliminary because I kind of don't know where I'm heading towards with this. Honestly, I just want to see a look and I want to understand it, and then be able to take it to someone and like, what do you guys think? And then you kind of start designing to manufacturing processes. Like, are you going to 3D print it? Are you going to CNC lathe it? Are you going to laser cut it? Blah 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 blah. You know, then, and you know, don't do it. You could do it in the preliminary, you know, design. You could think about that, how you're going to do it, especially for cost. But this is where you kind of design to manufacturing, is after you get like a rough design out. you know, you could start designing for manufacturing processes after the fact, because if you design something cool and great and fantastic, and then you're just limited to manufacturing processes, that's no longer true nowadays. Now there's new manufacturing processes that you might even think of. You might dive into and research manufacturing processes. So I'll add that as well. You know, research new manufacturing processes. You might find something that might be way more cheaper than what you thought. which is very common. This is the know-how. This is what's going to drive your cost, honestly. So design for manufacturing after your preliminary design. You know, once you start to show people kind of like what's going on, then you kind of get to a point where it's like, okay, now I designed it. Now I showed it off to people. Now I could get a gauge of what I'm gonna, you know, how am I gonna make it a physical piece. Let me go back to my design. This is great stuff, by the way. This is like masterclass level, guys. This is something you're not going to be taught in college. Hold on, give me. Sorry about that. Let me see. Now design for manufacturing. Hold on, let me check time now. 7:40. So I'm still going to go in time. So design phase, design for manufacturing. Let me go back to my design so I could continue with it. My receiver set. And then, you know, you know, and then, you know, I'm adding additional things on top of this. This probably should have been mirrored. This is probably just a mistake right here for me to do it on this phase and not the other one. I wonder if I can still bring it up though. That's an interesting point. Can I bring this above? Do I want to though? I can. And this is diving into another portion of it, is refinement. Actually, let me dive into a couple things. That's a decision I made out. This is part of more of the manufacturing, the cutouts and whatnot, the pocketing, the bolt cutout, bolt release. I'll show you why this one's grayed out as well, and the lower geometry number 2. The selector, I think it's this mirror feature that it didn't like. So I could probably drive both of these up there. I'm gonna leave it for now, but like this is, you know, I could probably move these up here, and that's probably a better decision right before the mirror and split, so I don't have to do an extra mirror. But that's fine. Going onwards, and then the mag catch. You know, this is something. You know, so the magazine releases correctly, so that's just a cutout for it. And this is the bolt release. And in real ARs, the bolt release basically does what exactly? It releases the bolt from the rear position. And in Airsoft, there's no functionality to the bolt release. It's all replica, fictitious, you know, Gucci stuff you have on there. So it doesn't actually do anything. So some of them do have a fake bolt plate to kind of make it look like it has a bolt in it, but it's just a fake plate. And for this design, I kind of thought, I was like, why do people even need that? I'm at this point, I thought more parameters. I started removing wants. Let me go right here. And this is the next step of your design. This is what I call revision of parameters. And this is where you start second guessing. Start questioning your design. And we'll start questioning it for redesign. and improvements. Now that you've dove into your manufacturing process, you may discover new stuff. You may have better design implications and then, removal of wants. Don't actually add to the design. There is one thing I've heard by Elon Musk. Oops, let me. Of wants / needs that don't actually add to the design. One thing I heard by Elon Musk is that he said delete the part. He says that a lot. I watched when SpaceX kind of thing. He when they're designing the rocket that's supposed to go to Mars and put people there. He says a lot in that documentary is like delete the part, delete the process, delete the part. There we go. Delete the process, delete the part. That's what I want to add here. Now that bolt for me isn't beneficial. It's cool to have there, and this entire thing is a cool factor. But I mean, one, if I start selling this lower, either I have to provide them the bolt catch, functional or not, and that's I know, and it becomes an extra part I need to dive into, and it doesn't provide any real benefits. So why have it in the design? So either I delete the part, delete the process, delete the feature. Don't need it. So I take it out of design completely. I don't want it in the design. And then I give it an extra level of there's another thing too on regular rifles. It's called the forward assist that some AEGs already take out of it, or some airsoft rifles already take out because they don't do anything on the airsoft version of it. So I delete. I don't even do that design, and I don't even add it to design because why worry or stress about this process part or feature that doesn't add to the design, that doesn't need it. This is a streamlined design, and that's kind of the new catchphrase I'm gonna use is a streamlined design. Delete the feature. This is where you do streamline the design. And this kind of goes into the next step, revisement. Revise. Hold on. Maybe you guys know the next one. The next one. Revise. This part, just because I am very, very, I know a lot about SolidWorks. All these features changed. Every single one of these. Revise. I broke this tree many of times. And yeah, all this geometry, I'm gonna show this. Where's my second? Oh, I don't know what's wrong, but hit Control Q. Revise. Make it look better. Make little changes. I took all of this whole design and everything's been changed based on stuff I researched, stuff I found, new processes, other things I found, pocketing and whatnot, and even, for example, I could delete another thing. I'd even do the dust cover because why do you need it in this? I mean, there's a use for it. I just didn't find enough use for it, and the charging handle doesn't even work. But the charging handle must stick in there because for certain other things. But this dust cover is not really needed. And then I came down to the decision of making this a very streamlined, skeletonized design. So revise, and you get to a point where I made an AR10 version and the AR15, and now I can flip between the two configurations. So here's the bigger one, here's the smaller one, and this is if you see like my videos on SolidWorks Mania, I do a phase 1 and phase 2, and I basically flip flop between the two phases to refine the design in both of them, so I could flip back and forth. And this is the same thing. This is a great example of that. An AR10 and AR15, they're very similar design, just slight little differences for their use case scenarios, and that's primarily has to deal with the different magazines they're gonna be using. So, and in both options, I'm gonna offer out there, with other things. And then the last part of that, as my time grows near, revise, is detail. Leave detail work to the end. That detail work is for looks only design work. Radius is, leave that all towards the end. Radius. The reason why I say this is because most of the time this drives the time of SolidWorks. You'll be breaking the tree more often, which is extending the time for you to design. And leave that all the way to the end. Radiuses for looks only design work, radiuses and logos and whatnot. Because after you get your design kind of finalized, you made a prototype or two, then you can actually go in and be like, okay, now I could add in all the glamour stuff, the radiuses, the logos, make it look cool in the end. And yeah, I probably should put down here. Forgot to add one thing, selection of materials. And that's supposed to be designed for manufacturing. There you go. That's the design phase. After this, goes into the campaign phase, which is honestly testing and prototyping, but that's something else I want to dive into another day. This is just design. This is design work. This is not the testing, prototyping. It is part of it. I mean, I'll add it on here because it does involve a lot, because it does change, because it does that again. So I'm gonna put this here, testing and prototyping, and then the last step is revising again. And it's a constant, not constant, it kind of goes around and around, revising, revision of parameters, revisement, leave detail work to the very end, testing and prototyping, etc., etc., etc. That's kind of the crux of all this. 3 crowded boards. So, give me a moment. My voice is a little sore. So yeah. So that is my design, and let me show you the design in itself. Maybe some features of it. Here we go. Oh, I keep on messing it up. And then let me put this with the rest. Oops. So I made a dummy gearbox. I also have that on my website, or I'll have this up on Colts, so you guys also get this and 3D print it. It also is something cool that I was really is that I made a little cutout here, and basically you could put a Airsoft AEG trigger in there, which are readily available. They're basically in every gearbox, and you might have one laying around if you're into Airsoft. Is you just stick that in there, and now you got a fake working trigger if you want to make this like a cosplay thing, or you don't want to you want to have something that's in there while you take the gearbox for something else. So the features of this is that right here you have the cutout to get to your hop up, cutouts on the side just so you can see your nice gearbox in there. I mean that was kind of the point, was to have to show off your nice gearbox. Up here, your charging handle. I still kind of want that because I want to be able to do something called a Kythera, which is an HPA system. And that, basically people could tie in. I've seen people tie it in where they could charge it up with the charging handle, which is pretty cool. The mag release switches here, a cutout just because this, and then the mag well actually has a lot of room so you can stick your mag. And just other general cutouts back here. This it's a little stubby. If people have seen or have AEGs, the buffer tube stud is mine's a little stubby. The reason why it's so stubby is that this is actually spec'd out for the HPA system. And the way I have it designed is that you could put a M5 metal insert in here, and then basically torque down your buffer tube, and it'll function the same. It doesn't need to be that long. And just logos, detail work, these are like little cutouts. So yeah, that is my design. That is my workflow of product design. And this episode, I got really passionate about it. I wanted to share with you guys. My brain is an open book for you guys. Come on, ask me questions. Any type of question. Engineering, design. What's the best puppy to get? I don't know. I like talking to you guys, and some people I've already talked to, and they're really cool guys. I want to become your friend too. So hopefully, hit me up. Let's talk. If you got a project, maybe I could help. I like teaching. Right now I have a friend named girlfriend's a friend as well. His name's Juanito. He want to learn SolidWorks, and I'm gonna help him. I'm gonna help him get him certified. Just because he asked. I don't want anything in return. Just because he asked. He's not paying me or anything. So same extends out to you guys. My where I give you value is what I could give you. I've worked really hard to learn this stuff. I spent many years and many days not eating, trying to go to college and whatnot. And I'll admit, college doesn't seem that valuable as it does before, especially with the AI world coming in. So and YouTube basically shows you more stuff than before. What I just taught you right now is, for me, is more valuable than the years I spent at college, honestly. This kind of like streamlined my design workflow, especially if you want to be a designer. So yeah, I'm gonna end the stream there. I'm a couple minutes early, but that took a lot out of me to go through. And I hope you guys liked it. People that are new out there, I hope you guys like it. Like, comment, subscribe. It mean the world to me. And message me if you have a question, or if there's anything in SolidWorks particularly you want to look at. I know wealth of tools. Janet over there, she'll understand that I have a world of SolidWorks in my head, and that's pretty much what I eat, sleep, and breathe at this point. It pays the bills too. So thank you guys for if you guys lasted as long, thank you so much, and I really appreciate you guys, and hopefully I see you guys next week if I don't cancel again. But thank you. Peace.